name is Angelica. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you're new here. On my YouTube channel, I like to talk about alternative fashion, and today we are discussing Magnolia Pearl. I found out about this brand on TikTok because of this video.
Alright, Mom, tell them where your outfit's from.
Shoes, Magnolia Pearl. Leggings, Magnolia Pearl. Dress, Magnolia Pearl. And
Magnolia Pearl. Magnolia Pearl. Like everyone else, I was thinking, why does this lady look like she feeds pigeons in the street of New York or also sweeps chimneys? So I decided to do a deep dive. To be honest, I really did not want to like this brand, but then I started reading articles, and the owner of the brand like recently came out with a book, and I listened to it on Audible, and I just feel like I really understand her now. So who is the mastermind behind Magnolia Pearl? Meet Robin Brown. She was born in 1963, and let me just say that her childhood is probably worse than I could ever imagine. It's giving The Child Called It. She moved around a lot, but primarily grew up in San Antonio, Texas. Her family was frequently homeless. Her and her little brother usually survived on eating food from the dumpster, and food stamps that her mom would get, she would use them all on booze. Growing up, she did not live in very good neighborhoods, and her family was usually one of the only white families in the neighborhood. Her mom would often go out on alcoholic binges, not returning back for weeks or even months, leaving the kids to fend for themselves with no food or money. And when this starts to happen, she's around 11. I think her brother's maybe like 5 or 6, and her little sister is a newborn. Her parents both were addicts, and her mom was diagnosed with DID later in her life. To make money, her mother was a seamstress. She would often thrift lots of different Victorian clothing and then patch it up, then reselling it at stores, and when she couldn't afford like a booth rent, then she would just sell it out of whatever apartment or hole in the wall that they were staying at. Her dad mainly painted portraits. Specifically, he did a lot of paintings of indigenous people. And Robin mentioned in her book right before her dad died, he was working on a portrait of Selena for the restaurant owners of his local favorite Mexican restaurant that he would frequent very often. When her parents were together in her early childhood, they did own a lot of businesses together. Her family is very entrepreneurial. One of the most notable businesses they had together was called Banana Funk and Junk. This was kind of a popular spot in the neighborhood. I know Robin actually has a bag named after the place. It was a well-loved record store in the area. Later in Robin's life, her dad owned different head shops and slept out of the back, often teaching kids art lessons as well. I tried to make the part of this video about Robin very short because, of course, I think we're here to talk about the clothing that Magnolia Pearl makes, but I feel like I didn't do a good enough job explaining like how horrible her childhood was. Even though her parents did have like small periods of like financial stability, like when they did own the store, a lot of her childhood was really rough. Like when she was just growing up, she just lived with her dad, then her mom came back in the picture, and then her dad ends up leaving, and then like it's just her mom and her siblings. And like I mentioned earlier, like her mom was like never there and was binge drinking, left the kids with no food or money, which I think was like a majority of her childhood. And then towards the end it gets a little better because she like grows up and is on her own. But I just want to emphasize like how horrible it was. Like she was literally like fighting for her life to like survive every single day. When she was little, her parents kind of fought about what she would wear. When Robin was a toddler, she remembers having this fight with her mother, and she wanted to wear like little kid boy boxers, but her mom wanted her to dress like very feminine, and her dad just really didn't want her to stick out because she already appeared very different from the other children in her class. Because of this, Robin started making her own apparel. In the book, she talks about how she wanted a pair of these moon boots, but her father wouldn't buy them for her, so instead she just painted her own sneakers silver, and some of the kids at school liked them, so she would often give them to them for free. One of the local churches was donating a bunch of cloth diapers to her family, and she would take those cloth diapers and sew them into shirts and embroider them with flowers, which is really nice during the summer because it would soak up the sweat and the tears from her and her siblings that she was taking care of. We're fast forwarding a little bit to like her late 20s, and I think around this time it's probably the 90s. She didn't like give timestamps, but like I'm just inferring and making up the timeline in my head because my mom is like 3 years younger than her, so I am like kind of correlating it with her life. So she was living in Texas, but then she ends up moving to Florida for a little bit to study holistic medicine, and she's like never traveled anywhere, so she ends up just like packing like literally all of her clothing because she doesn't know what to take with her. And while she is studying medicine, she had like some free time and decided to go to the mall, which she says was like the second time that she's ever been to the mall in her whole life because because she never had like disposable income or any allowance to spend on clothes or anything fun. And she says while she's walking in the mall, a lady that owns a local boutique stops her and asks like, where'd you get your clothes? They're really cute. And she's like, oh, well, like these, I just made this. And she's like, well, if you bring whatever clothes that you don't want to my shop, I'll buy them off of you because I love your style and you're very talented. And I think maybe like a couple days later or a week, she goes and sells her clothes to that boutique owner and gets a little check. In her book, Robin's like talking about why she makes clothes. And here is a quote I pulled. Play. I make clothes for this play, this movement. Maybe it's baggy jeans you can skate in, patched up for protection and embellished with icons of freedom. Or perhaps it looks like spinning in a twirly dress, punctuated with eyelets and tattered lace. It could be hand to your heart and cotton nightgown and gratitude to exist at all. We were put here to play, to delight, and to invent, and to move. So now we fast forward into the early 2000s. I think her dad has been dead for about 10 years. And unfortunately at this time she was taking care of her mother and she ends up passing away. And her mother was very big into Catholicism. So when she died, Robin just takes this Jesus tapestry that she had hanging. And she feels called to make something with this tapestry just to kind of like process the grief that she's going through. And she stays up all night making this bag out of the tapestry and she's just using whatever she has on hand, which was just some kite string. Either the next day or a couple days after, she ends up going to the store to pick up some groceries. And at the time, I think she's struggling still at this point. And this lady comes up to her and is like, I love your bag, where did you get it? And Robin's like, oh, like, I just made it. And the lady's like, well, can I buy it off of you? And she's like shocked. She's like, no, like it's not for sale. Like I just made it. I don't think it's like worth anything. And then the lady ends up walking away. And then later Robin is, you know, putting her groceries in her car and the lady comes back up to her and was like, I need this back. Can I buy it from you? I'll give you like blank amount of money for it. The lady ends up giving her the same amount of money that she needs to buy her mother's ashes. So then of course she ends up selling the lady the bag that she made from her mom's Jesus tapestry. And during this time she really isn't like making clothing or any bags. She just made that bag because she was using like her creativity as a way to grieve. And she put a lot of time and energy into remodeling her house and doing a lot of DIYs. So in 2003 she was actually put in a local magazine for her house. And she claims that since then her phone has not stopped ringing. And you can see this very similar style in her 2 store locations. She actually has 2 books about the interior design of her shops, which I will insert little pictures of. At this time, Robin starts to reflect back on her childhood and realizes that fashion has always been so much more important to her than she has realized. So she decides to start making clothing. She claims that she started making bloomers and slip dresses first, which a lot of people ended up laughing at and making fun of her for. She says a lot of her work is inspired by her childhood, like all the murals that she grew up seeing in her neighborhood, like of Saint Mary or of local community members. Her mother also had a fascination with the Virgin of Guadalupe and other religious figures. And you can see her mother's use of patchwork was also an inspiration to her because a lot of her work does look kind of like pieced together and DIY'd, which comes from having to be resourceful and just use everything and anything that you have. And I've actually seen some graphic tees that actually have some of her old drawings that she drew when she was a child on them. So now we have this idea of who Robin is, how she grew up, her creative process. Now I think it's time to get into Magnolia Pearl's clothing. First, we're gonna go over a couple TikTok because the girls just look so cute in these outfits, okay? First up, we have this cutie patootie.
Hey y'all, happy Monday. I'm wearing these overalls from Magnolia Pearl.
I do not wear overalls, like they make me feel claustrophobic, but like I would eat these ones up because they're so cute. I love the patchwork on them. I love that they're slightly distressed. And I really love that like vintage style of like the butterfly or like the botanical plants. I assume it's probably like from an old like vintage book or something. Like I eat up anything that kind of looks a little bit old, okay? And of course we have to bring our famous mama back. I love this outfit besides her mules. The overalls again are very cute. Magnolia Pearl like really goes off with all of her denim and overalls, and I think just how the mom has it styled is a little bit more normal instead of looking like a beggar on the streets from the Great Depression.
All I can say is
Spread love.
Spread love.
Okay, period. It's hard out there. The world is cruel and some people are deplorable. But let's get into Magnolia Pearl's website after seeing those beautiful ladies. I hate to say it, but like the first 7 times I went on the website, I was like, I get it. It's giving poverty core. It's giving fugly. It's giving rolled out of the dumpster. But now that I've seen it for the 25th time this month, I understand the vision. Okay, like this printed Addison work shirt. While it is $400, that is more than I pay in my share of rent. Lose that bird on the head. And I think this is kind of a cute outfit. I do love a swallow because I'm an American traditional girl, but I will not be wearing a dead cloth bird on my head. $70 socks. I really don't got much to say about that, to be honest. This outfit I think is really cute if we remove the bird carcass from that forehead. It's a cute outfit. Dragon embroidered provision denims. See, this is where our girl gets into trouble. These adjectives that she uses to describe her clothing. We'll get into that later. Don't you worry about it. I like these Oxford cargo pants. Again, $600. See, it's like I can't even compare anything into my life that's $600. Like my car payment has never been $600. My water bill is not $600. My student loan payments are not even $600. I know this isn't very like hashtag abundant mindset of me, but sometimes I just really struggle with comprehending how much wealth people have. Applique Ebby dress, $600. See, this is why people hate Magnolia Pearl. I will be honest. While it is, I think, very cute, the way that it's kind of like off the shoulder, it's giving like these hand-me-downs are like way too big for me. The boot has no laces in it. If she steps, that shit's gonna fall off. And the other boot has lace, but it's tied around the shoe. This girl is not surviving the zombie apocalypse, and for some reason she has a smiley face hat on. It's too much. One thing I really can't get over is how expensive a graphic tee is. This one she has for Neil Young is $150. Even if that is handmade, sustainable, ethical, all of the words that a girl could want in a perfect world of fashion. $150? My best friends screen print t-shirts and they do not charge that much money. You know, I have a business mindset. I understand that there is such thing as perceived value, but as a frugal girl and someone that owns a business and someone that has friends in fashion or that make t-shirts, like there is no way $150 is a reasonable price for a t-shirt. More socks. These ones are only 50 bucks. Here's something more normal from Magnolia Pearl. Vigo. I'm probably not saying that right. Hoodie t-shirt dress. $200. Like, no biggie. $200. That's probably what Robin wears for pajamas. This is another example why people hate Magnolia Pearl. This outfit. The jacket is sold out, but I kind of like it. I think it is kind of cute. I mean, I personally probably wouldn't wear the scarf, but it looks so cute. I do like the flowers. Again, I'm not a fan of the bird on the head. It is giving pigeon lady. It's cute for someone. Not for me. For her, because she looks very cute in it. Frankie denims, $600. This outfit is a bit much for me. So I think this outfit is a dress, a shirt, jeans, and boots. But I think if she like took off the dress, then maybe it would be something cute. A little more like realistic boho-ish. I like these jeans as well. Musette. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I probably could not pass a 3rd grade grammar test. Number 6 denim, $600. It's giving dirty. It's giving dingy. I know that these pants would smell like mothballs and sewer water. She does a lot of denim. These are the Paranoid Minor denims. And this is a collab with Black Sabbath. I mean, I'm not a neon girl, I'll say that. But again, minor. Every time I say minor, I'm thinking like M-I-N-O-R, but it's minor as in like going in the coal mines. I like this jacket. It says Quilt Work Anika Kimono. I think this is very on trend. I know a lot of people really love this like quilt work patchwork stuff, but I know small businesses that produce things sustainably and ethically that sell similar stuff for a cheaper price point. I saw this meme earlier that was like, if you wore these plaid shorts as a kid, what is it like being a lesbian? And I was like, period, they are kind of like very lesbian. Now what the hell is this? This outfit should be paired with a Cookie Monster shirt, but okay, are we getting the hint of it? Like, it's cute, sometimes it's over stylized. Okay, I just had to show these shoes. What the fuck are these? What are those? Okay, last one. Kelly cropped coat. This is giving like toddler ran into the closet blindfolded with the lights off, randomly picked out clothing, then like went over to her painting table, then stole her mom's van beanie, and then was like, okay, it's time to go to daycare. And the mom's like, I'm so fucking stressed out and tired. I don't give a fuck about what you look like. So then the baby wears that to daycare. Alright, I am a professional chismosa, so of course I have to talk about all of the drama, okay? Everything in this video is alleged and is my opinion. Do your own research and do not sue me because I have $13 in my bank account, and if you do sue me, Magnolia Pearl or Robin Brown, if you're watching this video, know that you will get nothing from me, okay? So let's state out the obvious. The poverty core aesthetic or style of the clothing. At the beginning of the video, I showed you that one TikTok that I saw, and it went viral last year around May 2023, which I cannot believe it has been that long ago. Like, I feel like it went viral 6 months ago. Whatever, time is an illusion and made up anyway. The New York Times writes an article stating, March 2023, Magnolia Pearl, a Texas-based clothing brand, faced backlash on TikTok for its expensive and hobo chic designs that some call poverty core. This is just like word salad. A video posted by Chelsea Jordan of her mother's Magnolia Pearl outfit. Commenters estimated the outfit cost around $5,000, and other users expressed shock and dismay over the prices and designs. Some compared the designs to La Miserables and described the lookbooks as a mix of steampunk and English garden. Some say the brands claim their prints are done by hand on wooden blocks to justify their high prices. Let's see what the girls on the Clock app had to say about this.
All right, Mom, tell them
Rich
where your
people,
outfit's
they're
from.
just like us.
Shoes, Magnolia Pearl.
Boots, $500.
Leggings, Magnolia Pearl.
Leggings, $400.
Dress, Magnolia Pearl.
$400 for the dress.
And little jacket, Magnolia Pearl.
Some for $500 on their
Okay,
website.
so tell me where your outfit's
That
from.
outfit
These
her mom had is
outfits
$1,800 to look like a hobo, to look like a strung out hippie. Their line literally says hobo boots, hobo dress.
Very valid points. And then the same user made this video.
So I originally made that video just because I had never heard of the brand that they were repeating over and over again, and I wanted to do some research and see its designer rags. We got the image above me from their lookbook. There's not really any denying where their inspiration comes from. It comes from, you know, poverty, depression era clothing. But what I did find most surprising was how blatant it was with things named hobo, which is problematic in its own right. Continuing, this is just another example. And then we have the hippie coat. We've got some farm wife apron going on here, a prairie dress, provision trousers, and minor denims. I yearn for the mines, mother. My intention was to just put a spotlight on these prices because I see lots of like lookbooks on TikTok, and the fashion industry loves to romanticize poverty, as you can tell by every one of those pieces.
So in defense of Robin Brown, the owner of Magnolia Pearl, she literally did grow up like piss poor and made clothing like this. And before I did research on the brand and the owner, like there was this desire for me to like pop off and like rip her a new one. It's not like she's pretending to be poor. She is like inspired by her childhood and how she grew up. But now obviously like Robin is wealthy, and these clothing pieces are now available to rich people rather than the people that the clothes are inspired by. In a video I watched called The Working Class is Cool Now, the video author is talking about clothing, you know, like working class poverty core stuff, and says that's what makes them fashionable, taking the elements of rural fashion, separating them from the working class people, and reproducing them in luxurious context for people that would never have to experience the work that the fashion comes from. And rich people have been wanting to cosplay or pretend to be poor for like literally hundreds of years. I watched this other YouTube video talking about why rich people love pretending to be poor, and the author or the YouTube maker talks about how even Marie Antoinette did this. She had a fake village and wore fake rags and go out there and would cosplay being a poor little peasant and tend to her farm and her animals, but it's not something that she relied on. She did it like for fun and like escapism from royalty instead of actually having to depend on it like the poor people outside her castle. That was such a bad British accent, I'm going to apologize. So I ask you, Viewer, when/why should she stop making clothing inspired by her upbringing? What should poor people and rich people be allowed to wear? Should Robin be allowed to use the word hobo because she literally was homeless or was a hobo at many times during her childhood? I think it's a very complicated question with very complicated answers. I think it's interesting to discuss because I don't think looking poor or looking impoverished or being lower class doesn't look like one thing. I mean, when I worked in homeless services a long time ago, I would have, of course, unhoused people come to my place of work, and a lot of people would be wearing Nike or Fashion Nova or Shein, not dressing in literal rags that are patched up. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen an unhoused person wear anything close to the Victorian era stuff that Robin creates. When watching that other YouTube video I talked about earlier called The Working Class is an Aesthetic Now, in that video the video author starts to talk about like the shabby chic aesthetic and how people that feel pressured to be perfect like this aesthetic because it is beautifully imperfect but in the right way. And people are into this like distressed DIY look because of the aesthetic rather than the function. Like people that have all the shabby chic shit, most of the time it's because they went and bought it at Home Goods, not because they actually like worked on an old dresser that wasn't hand-me-down. You know, it's not like Coat of Many Colors by Dolly Parton. Like having to use what you have rather than going out and buying some perfect imperfect stuff. Another controversial topic with Magnolia Pearl is the cultural appropriation allegations. First, we're gonna watch this TikTok.
So this definitely does piss me off. So this is the owner of Magnolia Pearl. It's some bullshit clothing line that likes to profit off of Native American images, but doesn't do a damn thing for the Native American community. And if you know anything about the great Quanah Parker, you know that's a picture of him. And this is her doing a dance on a blanket that I'm assuming that she made. Here's the dance she's doing. I mean, this is disgusting. That's the great Quanah Parker. Get your dirty feet off of his face. This lady has been exploiting Native American culture, using Native American images, and not doing anything for the indigenous community. This is called cultural appropriation. It's exploitation, and it's wrong. Feel free to share, comment, repost. This is some colonizer shit, and we just can't be okay with it.
The person that made this TikTok posted it April 28th, 2023. And then this woman posted her TikTok April 22nd, which we need to know for later.
Today I'm going to teach you a valuable lesson. If you're not familiar with the brand Magnolia Pearl, buckle in. If you are, you probably know what's coming. Magnolia Pearl just released their new summer line, which includes this t-shirt that you can buy. This $95 American you too can own this neon pink sexy off the shoulder number featuring the likeness of indigenous leader Geronimo. You might be asking yourself, Kate, you told me that there was a life lesson in here somewhere, and here it is. Just because you say you're presenting something with all reverence doesn't mean you fucking are. It's particularly insulting. You wanna know what happened to Geronimo after he was kidnapped and forced to live on a colonizer reservation? He was forcibly put on display like a fucking circus animal and take him around and charge people money to look at it. I checked, they're not like raising money for indigenous causes. This is a public domain photo and pure profit, baby. This is so wildly offensive in so many ways. Like, just wear something else to Coachella.
So now if you go on their website, that shirt and that blanket are not available. But if you look under the other pieces of indigenous figures, a portion of the sales from this item supports the efforts of Musically Fed in its mission to help Indigenous Americans, including Indigenous American veterans, and other programs that support Indigenous Americans. So here we have these minor pants. In the description, it actually says like who the portraits are of, which I think is, I don't know if nice is the like would be the right word, but as someone that like knows like literally nothing about Indigenous people or the culture, it's nice to know like who they actually are using. So if you were to buy these pants, you could like learn about the people you're wearing, because I would not know without them talking about it. We also have the Great Spirit Helena Josephina coat. This is a skirt called Spirit Warrior Pizarro skirt, and then another pair of pants, Great Spirit Minor Denim. Like I said earlier, I have like a business mindset, and when I see that businesses are donating to an organization after making a product, I start to question like how much is being donated? Is that profit? Is that from the total cost? It also makes me feel like very sinister, because as a business and as a civilian, it's a little more limited as a civilian, I believe, but if you make donations to charities or different organizations, that is a tax write-off, which benefits, of course, like the organization because they're getting money, but also the business. While they are giving away money, it does benefit them at the end because then they are paying less taxes on how much they made. Now, viewer, I ask you a question. Is there a right way to do something like this? If someone was to want to do a collection about indigenous people, like, should they have to get an approval for someone or some community? So Magnolia Pearl has a charity that's connected to the clothing brand. Okay, when I first filmed this, I was spreading misinformation. So I wanted to come back in and highlight like all of the charities that Magnolia Pearl has donated to, that is in regards to the indigenous community. And I did tally up all the numbers. So far in 2024, they have donated $45,000 to indigenous charities. And then in 2023, they donated a little over $29,000. This is pure speculation here, allegedly, all in my opinion. In 2022, they did not donate any funds to the indigenous communities or like charities. So I think they started doing it in 2023 when they faced a lot of backlash from creators on TikTok, when people started noticing their designs or clothing pieces with indigenous freedom fighters or like important political figures. Do you think that there is a difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation? Is there a way for white people to make clothing with BIPOC leaders and freedom fighters without it being offensive? A lot of Robin Brown's work is inspired by freedom fighters, or like I said earlier in that quote, her work is embellished by icons of freedom. But I don't know if I'm like looking into this like way too much. Sometimes I just like don't like the placements of like the indigenous people on the clothing. Why put the indigenous person on your butt cheek? Like, can you put it like in a different place? For some reason, there is this focus of indigenous freedom fighters. Like, there is no other clothes with white freedom fighters on it. And I know like how bad that like sounds right out of my mouth, especially with like white pride movements. Why not put Abraham Lincoln on that shit? Like, Abraham Lincoln was a white person that helped fight for freedom, you know? Here you go, Magnolia Pearl. I made a design for you of Abraham Lincoln. And if you want this design of Abraham Lincoln, you can PayPal me, Venmo me, Cash App me, or Zelle me $2,000 for this design, because here is proof that I did it first. Or another freedom fighter, she's not American, but you could do of Greta Thunberg. I mean, she is fighting for our freedom to exist without dying from the climate change. And here is a picture of Greta Thunberg. Again, this design is $2,000. If you want any of my information, please contact me via email. And, you know, you can hire me as a private contractor or freelancer, because graphic design is obviously my passion. And I know there's not a lot of white freedom fighters that people would want on their clothing. Like, while Christopher Columbus was fighting for religious freedom and leaving Britain, he also did G-word, the indigenous population of America. So I understand why we're not getting any Christopher Columbus minor pants. And she does have clothing with white people on it, but they're all rock stars like Neil Young, Black Sabbath, Fleetwood Mac. You know, some food for thought. Maybe we can brainstorm some like white people that we can put on some clothing. And in the same vein, we have Magnolia Pearl's Plantation collection from 2012, which is not cultural appropriation, it's just, I think, straight up racist.
I think I'm gonna have a heart attack. Magnolia Pearl released a plantation line. It's the caucasity of it all. Rich white ladies got some nerve. Imagine the privilege it takes to sell clothing that cosplays as the working poor and propagates this idea of America that if you work hard enough, one day you too can own a potato sack dress that's $2,000. This is, without a doubt, the whitest thing I have ever seen.
Bruh, like... In Robin's books, she said she never finished high school. She eventually did get her GED. And I know that, like, older folks, especially boomers, are, like, not that sensitive to things. But, like, how could you, like, not know in your right fucking mind that like that would be like so offensive? Like, is no one around you ever saying, no, maybe you shouldn't do that? Like, honestly, there is no like reasonable explanation for it, and this is like something that will never be acceptable. I feel like there's like not much to say besides that when it comes to this collection. And I don't think she's ever apologized about the collection, and I'm sure she just like probably does not even want to highlight it even more if she does regret making the collection. The last controversial topic that we need to talk about is sustainability / the ethics of Magnolia Pearl. There really is no clear answer about how the clothing is made. I heard people say that The clothing is made from reused and vintage fabrics. On her website, it says Magnolia Pearl is based out of Austin, and the clothing is made in India and the United States. And then I heard like someone randomly say like Magnolia Pearl has over 2 employees now and everyone has insurance and they have good pay and good housing, but again, there is like no proof of that. On Magnolia Pearl's website, under like the sustainability category, it says Magnolia Pearl trade is another spoke in the wheel of what is popularly referred to as the circular economy. Using nature as our model, we strive for regeneration and waste reduction, elevating the durability and timelessness nature of our products so that others might have the opportunity to bear their signature. As our clothing is resilient and inclusive, so is this concept. Breathing new life into something is our calling, an alignment of respiration and inspiration. Magnolia Pearl's offerings are always current, seasonless, and enduring. They are touchstones, wearable offerings of art made to uplift the soul and inspire not only the wearer, but all that they meet. Each clothing release we present is limited, small batch, testimonial to the spirit of creativity, carrying all nuance and rarity of a new metaphor. So that literally means nothing. It means nothing. I will give her some grace and say like at the beginning of her career, she probably actually was using vintage fabrics and scraps and stuff like that. But like as a business, it is very hard to scale and continue to make things handmade. But I don't think it's hard as a business to scale and be sustainable and ethical, especially with her prices. Another YouTuber talked about Magnolia Pearl and said this.
Fashion brand Magnolia Pearl is going viral at the moment for all the wrong reasons. What bothers me is the fact that there is no transparency about their manufacturing process. After doing some digging, I discovered that their clothing is manufactured in India, a country where 99% of garment workers toil in conditions of forced labor. Also, 15% of these workers are actual children. Workers are paid way below a living wage and experience unsafe, even deadly working conditions.
So there is no actual proof that Magnolia Pearl doesn't do things sustainably or ethically, but there is room to infer. While other small businesses like Tunnel Vision make their clothes out of China, which most people associate clothing being made in China as unsustainably and done unethically, Tunnel Vision has done it ethically, but also labels that on their website. You can see on their website it says their clothing is made in sweatshop-free environments, produced in small batches, and talks about like where their money goes to. They are very transparent, unlike Magnolia Pearl that doesn't say any of this. They just have a bunch of fucking word salad. I will give Magnolia Pearl a small amount of props because they are starting, or they do have like a resale website, which I assume people can send in their own stuff and they're like putting up on their website. I don't think it's like Poshmark where people can just upload their own shit, which I've been seeing a handful of other brands do too. I'm pretty sure Girlfriend Collective has it and Free People does too. Listen to a Clothes Horse podcast and there is a company reaching out to a lot of these fast fashion brands asking if they would be interested in creating like a resale website or app, which is still beneficial to the companies because the companies that do have this, they do get like a percentage of the sale. So they are making money off of their resold pieces. So I will be honest, I do like some of their clothing. I mean, I do wear distressed clothing very often, even though I do not yearn for the mines. I don't do any outdoor labor. I sit at home and rot and work online, and I wear distressed denim and my jeans have holes and rips in them, which were artificially made. I don't want to say I never will be able to afford Magnolia Pearl because I hope I won't be this broke my entire life. And it's something that I probably couldn't even buy secondhand because if you search on eBay or Poshmark for any of their clothing, the listings are still is basically the retail price. I see a lot of people just scalping and selling clothes that still have the tags on it, which they probably do because like Magnolia Pearl says on their website, they do make things in small batches. But I think if you do like Magnolia Pearl, there is a way to DIY very similar items. I've seen people on TikTok make patched up jeans that kind of like give a very similar vibe. And while I do like the style and the aesthetic of some of the clothing is very political to me, and the way that they operate with like the cultural appropriation, that plantation collection, the sustainability kind of being very gray. It's not a brand that I would support, even if I did have the money. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below about all of your thoughts, and I leave you with this meme.
Okay, Mom, tell us where your outfit's from.
Shoes, Magnolia Pearl. Socks too, little booties. My vintage shawl, Magnolia Pearl. The necklace is a special edition. It is the extension edition. Y'all make fun. This is the extension necklace from Magnolia Pearl. Purse, Magnolia Pearl. As a matter of fact, when I went in there, they had a cosmetologist today. Hairstyle, Magnolia Pearl. Cigarette, Marlboro, menthol light, one. But Magnolia Pearl promises they're going to take into carrying them.